Hello everyone, welcome back, or hello if you're new here. Today I'm going to be doing the books and makeup tag. So if you don't know what this tag is, it was created years ago. I was actually talking about this on Sprints recently, that I loved watching this tag like 11 years ago or whatever when I first started watching Booktube. It was huge. I used to like look it up and just watch how everyone did their makeup and then obviously chatting about books. So it's just a tag where there's like each step of the makeup process and then there's a question attached to it. So while you're doing that makeup, you then talk about the book. I just used to love it. And on the Sprints, I was like, I never see anyone do it anymore. Like, it's not really a thing, but it was so fun back in the day. And so I was like, do people want to do a collab with me and do it? And so I asked on my Instagram, I was like, whoever wants to join this collab, let me know. So a bunch of us are doing it. So I'll link all the other videos down below and a playlist so you can check out all the other videos doing this. What you should know about me is that I am not great at makeup. I am not very good at it. I am never gonna say I'm good at makeup. I'm going to a concert tonight. I'm going to like a pop punk concert, so I'm going to be doing like dark eyeshadow. The thing is, that's not till 6 p.m. and it's like what, 11:15 right now. So I'm going to be making it kind of intense right now and it's going to look ridiculous, but I want it to be intense so that it lasts. But yeah, I think I'm going to do all of the steps. I don't know if I'm going to do eyeliner just because my eyeliner's nearly run out and so it goes a bit blotchy, but we'll see. I also just suck at eyeliner and I don't want to expose myself. So most of my makeup is pretty cheap. I do have a Morphe eyeshadow palette, so this is pretty expensive. So I do have this. So I'm going to be using the same colors I always use, which is like a bit of this and a bit of that. I never use like the pinks or the purples. I just don't know how to do it. Okay, I think I am ready to go. So the first step is primer, and the question is, pick a book that left a lasting impression on you. It has got to be Fruits Basket. So this is a manga. I read it for the first time when I was like 13, and I've reread it like a bajillion times. I haven't reread it in a few years now, and I'm like more of a like socially aware reader now, so I'm really scared I'm gonna hate it. Well, not hate. I'm really scared that it's gonna be kind of problematic, but people seem to like it at the moment because it's had a big resurgence from the anime. But anyway, it's like my favorite story of all time. I love it. It's about this young girl called Toru. Both her parents have passed away, so she's like living in a tent and she's camped on this like land that ends up being owned by this family called the Somas, and her tent like gets destroyed by like a landslide, and so the Somas take her in. And they're like, you can live with us if you do like a housework, because it's like an uncle living with his two like nephews, and they're like cousins, and they don't get along. They're all like kind of lazy men. They're like, you can stay here for free if you like cook and clean for us. And she's like, sure. Soma are actually this massive like recluse family, but 13 of them are cursed by the zodiac spirits, and so when they are like intimately touched by the opposite sex, they do turn into that zodiac animal. And so it's this, they're kind of recluse. There's a lot of abuse and trauma that goes on in this family, and the catalyst of the story and everything that the story is about, everything comes down to the power of kindness. And as a teenager, you're discovering like who you are, you're creating yourself. And I think reading that at that time was so pivotal for me, because I was like, never really thought about being a kind person. Like, I did things that were kind, but I didn't think, oh, I'm being kind. I just did it. And I remember being like, as a 13-year-old, I should be a good person. I was like, I should be kind, because this is showing me what that does, how that can do miracles when you're a good person and you're kind to people, and what that does for a person. And you never know what someone's going through, and just being kind can change everything. That has just left a profound impact on me, because even to this day, I'm in situations and I'm like, I could be a bitch right now, or I could channel Toru and be nice. And basically Toru just lives in me to this day. And you know, I actually exist, whereas Toru doesn't, so I am heavily flawed. You know, there are times when I wasn't nice and I regret it and I think I should have been nicer. But there are definitely times where I am able to have a bit of insight and I think I should do the good thing here. And so yeah, it just left such a huge impact on me, because I feel like I'm just a better person because of it. And I don't know whether I would be who I am today if I hadn't have read that at that time. I'm all primed up. Oh no, I haven't done here. I always forget to do here, and then like that area doesn't like stick as much, and I'm like, why are my eyelids red? And I'm like, oh yeah, primer. I actually never used to use primer until like the last few years. I was like, I don't need that. And then I started using it and I was like, I need that. Next is foundation. Pick your favorite first book in a series. Whenever there's questions like this where it's like, pick your favorite of this thing, I never really go with my favorite, because all my answers would be the same. It'd be like, okay, so the first volume of Fruits Basket, because that's like my favorite story of all time. So I just picked one that like I really love and I don't think I've ever really talked about on my channel, because Obviously the books I read before my channel I don't really talk about as much unless they're Fruits Basket because I don't shut up about it. But I really liked The Bear and the Nightingale. I actually loved that trilogy. The second one was my favorite. I gave the first and the second 5 stars and I think the third 4.5. I should probably do the makeup hair instead of just talking. That first book was like mind-blowing for me, and a lot of people don't like it because it's very slow, and it's one of those books where like you don't even meet the main character for like until like 30% into the book because it's so slow, and it's like setting up the family and the history, and it's very atmospheric. So this is about this young girl, and she can see these, like, I can't remember what they're called. I'll put it up on the screen. They're like these creatures. I think it's in like Russian folklore, and they like live in your house and they like protect it, and they have like different things that they look after in the house. But most people can't see them, but she can see them. People think she's kind of crazy, and she's pretty like tomboyish, and I don't know, it doesn't come across not like other girls, but I guess you could think of it like that. But I just loved her, so I was like, I don't care. But she is expected to not be like a boy because of the time period and the setting. And so they're like, no, you need to provide, you need to be, you know, feminine, and you're not supposed to go outside and run around, you know, be batshit crazy like you are. But that's just who she is. And so it's a very feminist story about her getting to be who she is, but also this ability of seeing creatures enables her to like take part in this big like epic plot line as well. But it's very much about her just being who she wants to be in a time period that was very restrictive, and finding people that understand her and care about her. But it also again follows like her family. After she's born, her mother passes away, so she's kind of raised without a mother for a fair bit. And then when the dad sees what she's like, he's like, she needs a feminine figure in her life, and so he goes and gets this woman and brings her back, and he marries her. And she's like a bitch. She's like full bitch, but she's a very interesting character, and I really enjoyed reading about her. But she's like nasty as shit. And yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful story. And I just remember reading that first book and being so immersed, and I loved learning about the family, and it was so epic. And when we finally got to meet her, like there was so much build up, and I just remember reading it and being like, this is my shit. I like to blend it very far into my neck. I don't know if this is like normal, but I will like blend into my neck as much as possible because I am a pasty bitch, but it doesn't blend very well in my neck, so then I end up getting these like red marks. I don't know what I'm doing clearly. Next is concealer. Oh yeah, I don't really use concealer. I guess I will for this. Concealer is pick a character you wish you could get rid of. No, I am going to use Fruits Basket again for this, but I promise this is the last question with Fruits Basket, and everything else is a different book. I was recently talking to Lotta, who is doing this collab, so she should be linked already. But she's reading Fruits Basket for the first time, and she's been messaging me because I'm just known as the Fruits Basket hoe. She sent me a picture with like the Yuki fan club, or like one of the girls from the Yuki fan club, and I was like, oh my god, I hate them. I forgot how much I hate them, because when I would reread it, I would just skip over their sections. And I remember there was like one chapter that I hated so much because I think it was just about the Yuki fan club, but they're so annoying. And like, it was a big trope in like that era, like 90s era shoujo. There is a lot of that kind of thing of like the girls that fangirl over the pretty boy or the popular boy, and it's so cringe. And like, even when I was 13 and reading it for the first time, I was like, this is cringe, and I'm a 13-year-old. Just being a 13-year-old is cringe, you know, that's saying a lot. But yeah, they're like these group of girls that really like the character Yuki because he's like pretty, and he finds them really creepy and annoying, and I find them really creepy and annoying, and there's just so much girl hate with them. I don't really know what I meant to do with concealer. Like, I know you're meant to get rid of like the red patches, but I thought you did the concealer before the foundation. Next step is powder. Pick your favorite last book in a series. I normally do powder at a different stage, but I guess I'll do it now. Maybe this will like teach me how to do makeup properly. Who knows? Again, this isn't necessarily my favorite because I've read a lot of books and it would take me forever to like do like the whole pros and cons, which is my favorite. So it's just one I can think of at the moment. I don't think I ever talked about in a video. I read it recently, but I don't do wrap-ups and it wasn't in a vlog. But it was Jade Legacy. So the last book in the Greenbone saga. I love that series, and that last book was my favorite. I think it's the only one that I gave 5 stars. I don't know. I didn't like the middle one as much, but Jade Legacy was like insanely good. I just fucking loved it. There were so many characters. I love books that take place over a long period of time as well, which is what this does. And you just see everything throughout the series like come to a like conclusion. And even just the title of Jade Legacy, so much of it is about this legacy and what legacy does to people, and the pros and cons of legacy. Like, it's so nice to see families like really care about each other and carry things on through the generations, and that, you know, cultural connection and closeness is so interesting and profound. But then it's also like, but then it like punishes individuality, and people don't have that ability to be themselves. And like, how do you find that common ground? Which is what I think a huge part of this series was kind of talking about. But yeah, the Greenbone Saga, if you don't know, is like this series about like these gangs that use jade to like enhance their abilities. So they have like magic powers, but you have to be Greenbone to be able to use that. But there's now this drug that's coming out that gives people the ability to use jade when they aren't a Greenbone. And it's kind of about, do we protect this and only allow certain people to use it, or is this something we should allow other people to use? And there's two like main gangs within KCON, which is the island where most of the Greenbones are. And they're starting to have different beliefs, and it's kind of this power dynamic between them, but there's also a war going on in the rest of the world. I feel like I look very orange. Why is my forehead still not as dark as the rest of my face? I'm paying more attention to the questions and what I'm saying than the actual makeup, so that's concerning. A book that you think everyone should read. There's so many books I could pick for this, but like, I don't like the idea of everyone should read this book, because obviously some people find some stuff triggering. It's like, yeah, I could pick this book that I think everyone should read because it says so much about like society or whatever, but also that it's triggering. Like, it could be triggering for people. So I don't know like what to say. Like, my first thought was Homegoing, because that book says a lot of important stuff about history and who writes history and what is history and how do we know history when there's such a disruption between the generations. And it's always the people that win that write the history, and they're going to have biases. So we never really know history and how history is such a profound part of a family. And when you remove that, when you remove people and they don't have the history, what that does to a family. And I think it's such an important book in that regard. So I'm like, everyone should read this book, but it is dark. And it would be very triggering for some people. So I'm like, no, not everyone should read that book, because I don't want people to read that and then be like, you know, triggered. So I'm also like, The Boy from the Mish, I think everyone should read that, but that still has some triggering content. This is a First Nations book about this young boy that's like learning about his sexuality, has a romance with another boy, and he's in a kind of homophobic environment. And it's about putting yourself first, and if people don't accept you for who you are, then you need to let those people go, and how if they're meant to be in your life and they love you no matter what, they will come to you, and you shouldn't have to change who you are or hide who you are for people. And also how culture can play a big part into that, and how you still maintain a relationship with your culture and your beliefs when people are saying that you're wrong and are not giving you a place within that. And I think that is a really important book. And there's not really any books out there like it. And I just think it's such a pivotal, amazing teen book. And I think everyone should read it to promote it, because this author is incredible. I recently read his newest release. I also gave that 5 stars and really liked that. Both of those books could be triggering for people, so I wouldn't say like everyone should read this. But they're two that come to mind if I was like, okay, everyone needs to read this, just because I feel like they're so important. They're kind of shit. Anyway. Also, I hate doing eyebrows before eyes, because I always am like, bro, those eyebrows are too dark. Next is eyeshadow. Eyeshadow is very hard. This is probably the hardest step for me. Pick a book that has your favorite colors on the cover. So I don't really have a favorite color, right? I don't know, like, and it changes. Like, at the moment, I'm really vibing yellow, but then sometimes it's blue and sometimes it's pink. Like, I have a lot of pink clothing. And some of you know this, but when I was a kid, I was asked, what's your favorite color? And we had to do like a project on our favorite colors where we like wrote the color, and then we had a bunch of like bubbles coming off it of what is that color. And I was like, I'm gonna pick brown because nobody's favorite color is brown, and I feel bad for brown because no one's like, my favorite color is brown. But I was like, I feel bad for brown. This inanimate thing that is not living and sentient, it's just a color. I was like, I feel bad for it. So I kind of just like jokingly continued to say that my favorite color is brown, even though like it's not. And I was looking and I'm like, there are no brown books. But I found Crystal Storm, I think it's called, which is like the second last book in the Fallen Kingdoms series. So I guess we'll talk about that. The Fallen Kingdom series is kind of crap, but I love it. I don't know. It's just that series to me that I'm like, objectively, this is hot trash, but I love it. And the romance is so good. I'm obsessed with the romance. I remember just screaming and getting all the butterflies when I first read it. I really need to reread it. Like, it's questionable at times. It's not the best. It's a very, very, very taboo romance, honestly. When I think about it, I'm like, really? But I I think just because I don't think the author even intended for them to be together. She was just like writing it and then it just like clicked. So I think that that's why it works, because they don't start having any attraction. They don't like each other at all at the beginning. Through the story, it ends up happening, which I think is great because that's kind of how it is in reality sometimes. So I think it just works really well. It just kind of comes out of nowhere and they're so unexpected. Falling Kingdoms is a like YA fantasy. A lot of people were pitching it as like the YA Game of Thrones. I think that does it a disservice because it is not really, because it's kind of crap. Like, and Game of Thrones is a very clever series. Like, the violence against women in it is atrocious and I really hate that. And I think the way that women are written is kind of gross. I will say that. Like, it's very flawed, but it is very clever. And there's some very incredible characters, whereas Falling Kingdoms is not that. Like, just because it's kind of brutal at times and characters die doesn't make it Game of Thrones. And I think that does it as a disservice because people go in like, this is going to be really clever, intricate plot, and then it's just like whiny teenagers, like, having the hots for each other, and you're like, how is this Game of Thrones? It also has incest, so just know that it's kind of ick. I think that's why people are like, it's the next Game of Thrones because it's got incest, and I'm like, okay, like I don't really think that's a selling point. Like I don't think anyone's like, I love Game of Thrones because it's got incest. Like as you can see, I don't really know what I'm doing with eyeshadow. Eyeshadow just is the hardest part, let's be real. It's really, really hard. Right, I feel like that looks terrible. It's what we got to work with. Eyeliner. I think I definitely need eyeliner on right now. It's not looking great. So, pick a dark and mysterious book. I don't really read a lot of dark books. I don't think I can talk while doing this, so wish me luck. I mean, doing one is fine. It's then doing another one and making it look the same. That's the problem. Like, I can do one and I'm like, that looks great. And then I do another one and I'm like, that also looks great. But they don't look anything alike. Let me see. I feel like that's not bad. I feel like I can work with that. Okay, but yeah, I didn't answer that question because I just don't really have anything and I couldn't talk while doing it. Which is probably mascara, but I want this to dry. We're just going to skip that for now and do blush. Pick a book that had some cringe-worthy romance. I have talked about this book, but I just like, this is a good answer for this. It was Black Sunshine. I thought the romance in this was real cringe. It reminded me of like an early 2000s YA romance, and it was like an adult romance that was written a few years ago, and I was like, it's like about this woman that like meets this vampire. I can't even honestly remember, but I think she gets like turned into a vampire. Like part of turning into the vampire is like lust, and so she's like really lustful for him, but she like doesn't want to sleep with him because she's like, I barely know this like creepy man. And he's like, well, you gotta let out all the lust. And so they like hook up, and I'm like, this is not consensual, because she like doesn't want to do it. Like she can't control her hormones because of this thing, and I'm like, ew. It's very reminiscent of like early 2000s romance. I'm like, not good. Oh, that'll do. Highlighter. Pick a book that brightened your day. I'm gonna go with the Brown Sisters books for this because they are just so adorable and wholesome, and I like giggle incessantly when reading them. I recently read Eve's book and they were all 5 stars. I just think they're just, I don't know, they're so unique and amazing, and like I think what works so well is that they're so human. Like the way the characters think and feel, and like the third act breakups, everything is so relatable because a lot of it's based on like anxieties and genuine like fears. It's not this big stupid like miscommunication plotline, you know, and like the thoughts they have about each other are just so human and relatable, and they're just such adorable, likable dorks. Like I don't know, they brighten my day for sure. Like even just thinking about them brightens my day. I think they're a series I'll just like reread on audio all the time. I don't know, there's like just this magic in that series. People put it on their nose, don't they? Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna leave it. So mascara is pick a long book. I'll just go with like the longest book I've read, which is A Dance with Dragons, which was like, what was it, like 1,200 pages or something? It was fucking boring and not very good. I really love the first 3 books. Again, there's problems with it. Underage women in very sexual situations being sexualized. The violence against women is just completely unnecessary. And while he does write strong women that do fight against that, it still doesn't negate the fact that it happens in the first place. And it's like, it's based on history. No, it's not. There's dragons. It's not based on history. That is such a shit argument. He is making this world. He is choosing to inspire it on a time period, but he doesn't have to use everything because there weren't fucking dragons in the past. So if there's not dragons, there doesn't need to be violence against women. Just saying. Whilst that book itself, A Dance with Dragons, was crap, it's still like, I don't know, it's a series I look back on fondly, even though I think it's heavily flawed and I disagree with a lot of it. I don't know, there's just so many iconic moments and characters and it's so clever that I just love it. Like, I think there's just so many characters in it, like Theon, Tyrion, Sansa, Brienne. They're just so memorable and iconic and complex that I just love it. But yeah, that A Dance with Dragons book was really bad. It was too long. I think he just like enjoys world building more than actually writing a story, unfortunately, because he's really good at it. If he just like chilled his pants, stopped being a pervy old man and actually just wrote this fucking story, it'd be great. I recently tried to read Diary of the Orange Tree, which is, my edition's 800 pages, and I was expecting to love this book, right? I was like, I am gonna love this book. I'm so excited. I thought it was about two women. I thought they were like on two different kingdoms that were like at war, and they were like dragon riders, and I was expecting this fiery, powerful lesbian dragon rider story. Then there's two men that get perspective. I'm like, I don't want to read about men in this book. And then the sapphic romance is a white like queen and her servant who is a woman of color. What? She's like her handmaiden, and like she's actually like a spy, and we know that, and she's like got magic powers, so she actually does have power. So it's not like completely that situation, but it's just icky. I'm like, why would you make her a person of color? Like, just make her white as well. I've never heard anyone talk about this before. Like, I didn't even know that that was a thing. Again, I thought they were both like badass lesbian dragon rider queens, and then there were so many scenes of, even though we know she has power and she's like manipulating the situation, but she's still in a position where she's powerless against this person who she has to do everything for. So she'd be like, do this, do that, and she'd do it. I didn't like that, and I just couldn't get past it. Like, I know a lot of people obviously don't care, but I just couldn't get past it. And it was also just like super boring, and I didn't care, and I didn't know what was happening. It was really confusing. So I decided to DNF, and I don't know if I will go back to it. I don't know. Like, I'm not shaming anyone for enjoying it, because I have a lot of friends that like it as well, but I think I just had the wrong expectation. I think once there were men, I was just like, I don't want to read this anymore. Now we're up to the contouring, right? This is where shit's gonna get bad. Contour. What book surprised you with how much depth it had? I'm gonna go with Mexican Gothic, which that whole book in itself surprised me, and I've talked about it a lot, so I won't go too in depth. But that is like a haunted house kind of storyline. So this girl's sister marries this man, and she goes to live at his like big mansion with like his grandpa and his mom, I think, live there, and then his cousin. And they don't really hear much from her, and then they start getting weird letters from her, and a lot of them don't make sense. And she's babbling crap, and they're like, obviously very understandably concerned about her welfare. They're like, what is going on? They get one letter that's like, help me, like saying help. And so she and the dad decide that she should go stay at the mansion, which I'm like, that is a recipe for disaster. But she gets there and her sister's sick, and so she's seeing this like family doctor, and she's like, well, if she's sick, maybe I should take her to the town doctor. And the family's like, no, you're not taking her to the town doctor. She's like trying to figure out what's going on with her sister, this weird family, and it is a very spooky, thrillery, gross, absolutely gross story. But it's also got like so much commentary on so many different things, like migrant workers, colonization, sexism. And it was all about keeping it in the family and, you know, keeping the superior genetics going. Fucking brilliant. There was just so much depth to it. I was like blown away because I was like not expecting that. I was just like, this is gonna be a weird, creepy story. And then it was like fucking fantastic. I feel like it just looks stupid when I do it. I need more up here, but I don't want to ruin my hair. Not my hair. I was just say we're done, but I do have lipstick. I can't find the one I normally use. So I've either got, that is too red. I don't know, I don't like a lot of lipstick on my face. I feel like I look stupid. This one's kind of a gross color. I also use this. Is that weird to like put on my lips? Because I don't like a lot of lipstick. I don't know, I just like a little bit, just a tinge. Tint my lips. I'm gonna do it here. Is it weird that I use this? I think I saw it on like a YouTuber. It's like video ones. I can't talk while doing this. It was your favorite kiss in a book, and it has to be a kiss in the Raven Boys. I can't say who it's between because I feel like at this point everyone knows, but just in case people don't know. But the kiss scene in the last book that talks about like rain and the lawn, the most beautiful kiss scene ever. Nothing will top that. I remember when I read that, I like collapsed. I was like, oh my god, what do I have to do? It's on there now. I just want to put my earrings on and then we'll have the final look. There we go. And that is the finished product. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was like a nice throwback for you if you also used to watch this. And again, the playlist will be linked in the description. Go and watch everybody's. This was such a fun collab. And if you want to do it and join in, just like link it to me and I'll add it to the playlist. Everyone is welcome. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the look, and answer any of the questions down below if you'd like. I'd absolutely love to know, or talk about makeup with me. Do you wear it? Do you like it? Are you not very great at it like me? And yeah, I will chat with you all in my next video, but until then, bye.